What's a piece of technology that released in the past 20 years that had a digital storefront, a unique and identifiable interface, sleek architecture, and the ability to wirelessly communicate with other owners of the device? You read the title, didn't you? The Wii was unlike anything released before it. It was revolutionary. It was cool to have, and just like that, the novelty wore off and it sucked. What now seems like a gimmicky and underpowered rectangle actually has much more than meets the eye. We see a lot of its features and design cues in modern consoles, yet a lot of its accomplishments have been overshadowed by other consoles and devices. I know it's basically a GameCube with motion controls, but when you dig a little deeper, you start to realize the Wii is actually a pretty robust piece of technology with a significant impact on the industry. Since it released before smartphones were everywhere, it had a lot of interesting features that we see in modern smartphones rather than consoles. So, how was the Wii basically the original iPhone, and why did its legacy get so overshadowed? Before Steve Jobs created the device that single-handedly revolutionized the boomer comic industry, we had a little something called the Wii. Yes, I'm gonna keep holding this for the whole video, it just gives me something to fidget with. Like today's smartphone, the Wii wanted you to use it every day. It was just needy like that. It had apps in the form of channels where you could check the weather and the news from around the world, because why wouldn't you want to read about the horrors of mankind with a Wiimote in your hand? It also had the photo channel where you could just look at pictures on your SD card. What really made the Wii so special though was the Wii Shop channel. Yeah, let the music roll for a sec, that shit goes too hard. The Wii Shop channel was where you can not only buy games, old and new, but you can also get some more free apps. Sound familiar? Make sure you cite your sources or it's plagiarism, Mr. iPhone. We got the Everybody Votes channel. Twitter, check me out channel. Drop a follow and a like. That's just Instagram, Mr. Zuckerberg. We Speak channel, the original place to talk to your Discord kittens. Little announcement about that later on. I can go on, but I'm pretty sure all these apps are common knowledge. But what you may not know, top 5 things you may not know about the Wii is that in Japan, they actually had a food delivery channel almost 5 years before Uber Eats even released here. Basically, the Wii had apps before apps were everywhere. You could watch YouTube on your Wii. You could browse the internet on your Wii. You could even watch Netflix, which was on Xbox first, on your Wii. And let's not forget what the Wii had that the iPhone didn't, except for a little bit in 2016. The Mii's! If the next Nintendo console gets rid of Mii's, I'm gonna get rid of me. The Wii hosted one of the first and perhaps most impactful digital storefront and app store, and it let you do so much more than just play games on your video game console. The art style of a user interface isn't the most important thing, but I think the Wii's is so prevalent and unique that it's a really important part of its legacy. It's no secret that Nintendo was kind of an Apple fanboy, both in terms of aesthetics and anti-consumerism. Let me pick this up again for the 50th time. The Wii was sleek, it was sexy, you could easily use this to pick up chicks. Although this was the trend in tech overall, Nintendo and Apple were both really big fans of skeuomorphism, which, for those of you who haven't seen the video on it, is the design concept of making items in your user interface resemble their real-world counterparts. Everything in the Wii's interface looked like something you could physically feel. The buttons were glossy and looked like the buttons on the Wii remote itself. All the messages you sent were on paper and sent through an envelope. Pictures in the photo channel were laid out on a corkboard that you had to flip through. The list truly does go on. There were UIs before that did this to a much lesser extent, but the Wii was a big proponent on bringing this look into the video game industry through its user interface and the interface of its games. This design style persisted in many games in the Wii era, both on Wii games and non-Wii games. That sentence sounds stupid as fuck. A lot of the credit here does go to Apple, but without the Wii, I think consoles would have been doing that weird void and liminal space thing for much longer. Honestly, I prefer either of these over the flat look we've been doing for like a decade now. Why has this simple, minimalist design style gone on for so long? Why is the trend lasting forever? Many aspects of the Wii are now standard in modern consoles and the industry as a whole. I'm not claiming the Wii created these things, but it was early and sometimes the first to adopt some of these features. The Wii Shop channel wasn't the first digital storefront, but it was the first to offer legacy content. The Virtual Console showed the big three companies that yes, these consumers are dumb enough to pay for the same game over and over if it's on new hardware. Jokes aside, I think there are good and bad ways of doing legacy content, but that's a discussion for another day. I don't want to talk about it right now. It's really personal. The Wii had so much legacy content though, including hundreds of games from non-Nintendo consoles. How did we go backwards? Feel free to hate on it all you want, but the Wii also brought motion controls to the mainstream, which is still around in VR and gyro aiming. And don't act like you weren't all giddy to play Wii Sports again on your Switch. But the biggest component of the Wii's legacy was how it brought gaming to the masses, which is pretty dope. Alongside the DS, which is in the other room, I don't want to grab it, I'm still busy with this, the Wii created a landscape where games were being made for every kind of person. Shit. Younger kids and older adults were able to enjoy playing video games since they were so much more accessible now. This is where playing video games as a family really became a possibility. Not that I ever experienced it, but I'm sure some people did. Not everyone who played the Wii became a born-again gamer, but oh shit, I don't know if there's a game in there. Not everyone who played the Wii became a born-again gamer, but it was a gateway for many into the beautifully confusing hobby that is gaming. The Wii did a lot. It added a lot of features to a video game console other than playing games and changing the time. I also want to pause for a second to talk about the Wii Fit. Yes, I have the balance board in the other room. I also don't want to grab that. I know it's kind of silly, but it's actually a really interesting piece of hardware and software that doesn't have a modern counterpart. Remnants of the Wii's legacy can be found everywhere in gaming today, just trust me on that. And it brought the hobby to a huge new audience. There are a lot of reasons why the Wii's innovations were overshadowed or forgotten. The most obvious is that people back then were blown away by the motion controls, but it didn't take long to realize that they just kind of sucked, especially when they're forced into every single game on the Wii. Also, the Wii's hardware and software was never updated to remain competitive. They actually removed features like the GameCube backwards compatibility in the newer models to cut costs. Nintendo didn't ever bother modernizing or improving their apps on the Wii, and I don't know if the Wii was capable of any major software updates. The apps worked, but they were notorious for being so slow. The Wii changed the world for a few years. Going back to the iPhone though, that changed the world probably forever. Everything wants to be an iPhone now, including refrigerators. Nintendo failed hard on keeping the initial interest of the Wii going. After the big Nintendo games released, they kinda just sat back on their pile of cash instead of maintaining that crazy momentum they had. Every other console was beginning to mimic what the Wii did. Both the good, like the communication and legacy content offered, and the bad, like the motion controls and the horrible wide appeal games. Comparing the iPhone to the Wii, or any console to the Wii, really is comparing apples to oranges. Like the iPhone brand. But they were both such unique pieces of hardware that changed their respective industries. The iPhone though made people want to buy a new iPhone every year, even before their current one had any real issues. Each iteration of the iPhone brought something new to the table that justified this purchase, at least for the first handful of iPhones. Apple made an actual attempt to stay innovative and ahead of their competition. Obviously, the Wii couldn't create a system where you would buy a new new one every year, but Nintendo really didn't do anything cool or new to the system to try to remain competitive, other than removing features and lowering the price, obviously. Like I said, both products are vastly different, but that's what makes the similarity between the two so interesting. Let's face it though, the iPhone was bound to win. It let you pretend you were drinking beer. Down the hatch, boys. The Wii's legacy was overshadowed mostly just because it was replicated and improved by other devices, and Nintendo didn't make any real attempt to maintain people's interest in the actual device. With all of this considered, I still believe the console has such a unique style and feel that just can't be recreated. Sorry boys, I had to take a bit of a pee break. Been downing this whole water the whole time. I had to take a wee. Even though it's not as effective for picking up chicks as it once was, the Wii still has a lot going for it. It showed the world of non-gamers that gaming didn't have to be as confusing or scary as they thought it was. And I know a lot of those people found a new hobby that would continue for the rest of their lives because of this console. Gaming would not be where it is today without the Wii. It was a global phenomenon and it changed the industry forever. Despite the fact that other companies copied a lot of what the Wii did, it was so unique and novel that it's still fondly remembered to this day. My man Chips has a pretty good video on the Wii, so you should also check that out up here. If this is the wrong side, just flip me over, please. Editor. The legacy of the Wii may have been overshadowed by better consoles and devices, but I don't think any encapsulate the time period like the Wii does. The novelty of using its apps and features still feels so cool and futuristic, at least to me. My friend and I recently hooked up both our Wiis to one TV to read both sides of the conversations we used to have on the Wii messages, and it was such a funny and surreal experience. It took us back to a time where putting up with the pointer keyboard thing was overlooked because holy shit, I'm talking to my friend from my house without having to use the house phone. It really allowed you to do so much before all these apps and features were in our pockets. It's honestly crazy how cheap it was. I know I'm really biased towards the Wii because of my memories with it, but you probably are too. That's why you're watching this. So yeah, the Wii's pretty cool. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel on your Wii, go ahead and grab your Wiimote and smash that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'm also making a Discord channel so I could talk to everyone more and do like announcement stuff on there. I'll probably also be sending pictures of cheese slices in funny places. So yeah, check that out, probably in the description. And I'll see you soon. It's summertime, baby.